Hey everybody, I just wanted to make a quick video on how the GrandAm brake upgrade both works, some gotchas, some things that you should really watch out for, and just generally how to get it done. So obviously here I have my finished parts, and here are the originals. These are the old stock ones I didn't end up reusing. I got some fresh ones, because I don't like how rusty these are. Anyway, you could totally reuse these if you want, and you guys can kind of see the difference here, the single plane versus the full size, or the vented rotor, I should say. If you check it out here, I had them make a centering ring. That's one of the first gotchas. So if you'll notice, I'll take this rotor, I'm just gonna flip it upside down and set it on the old stock one. Sorry about filming here, I'm not so good at that. Now, that looks like a pretty good fit, but you will note it can move around a bit. The holes are slightly larger on the GrandAm rotors, and there's actually a little teeny tiny bit, like maybe 100 thousandths worth of wiggle room, maybe less than that, maybe like 40 thousandths of wiggle room around this center. I don't think this makes much of a difference. My machinist was kind enough to make a little lip for me on those centering rings. But the primary reason I went with the centering rings and the longer studs, highly recommended. I got the upgrade installed, and I started seeing all sorts of shaking, and it felt like a tire was off balance while I was on the freeway. Something was definitely not straight, and one of the things that was suggested to me, because like I said, these holes are slightly larger than what would be common for this size of a stud, or even the newer studs. So like if I throw this back up here, you can see this still has a little, well crap, now it's making a liar out of me. I can't really do this one-handed. But anyway, it has a little bit of slop in there, the wiggle room. Yeah, so when I pressed in my new studs, they weren't necessarily perfectly straight. And because when you throw this rotor on here, you lose this entire lip, you have no more surface to center on the wheel. What happens is when you go and throw this, and then you put the rotor on top after this has been turned down, and then you throw the wheel on, once you have the longer studs in, you no longer have a centering ring, and then your studs are probably not true. Like, that's just the reality of it. Like, they're probably not, going to be straight. So what happens is those are slightly off, there's no more centering ring, and then of course your wheel is not centered, and it rides like crap on the freeway. So highly recommend the centering rings. It makes life a lot easier. If you're going to go and have these machined out anyway, just have them make these. Let's cut over to a picture of just the rings so you can really get an idea of how they're made. But yeah, so I put the holes in the side of them here, the 4 holes around. I had them machine in those holes so I could get the cotter pins in for the castle nut. Because I was like, this is going to be nice and tall and fat and awesome, and the wheel's just going to plonk right on there and be perfectly center every time, regardless of what the lugs are doing, or the lug studs, I should say. So now it's going to run true, and that's going to feel a whole lot better. Again, you could get away without these centering rings and just have them machine the hubs, or machine the rotors into hubs, which looks roughly like this. But if you're going to do that, I would recommend trying this first. So you could try and skip the centering rings altogether. Just let the rotors be as they are. And then in order to get the lugs nice and centered, you're going to want to leave the rotor off, take the raw hub, which I can no longer do because of this lip, but take the raw hub, throw it on a wheel, and then run your lug studs in by putting the lug nut on the front. So you'll run it through. Let's pick up this wheel here. Yoink! And I did mine with the brake rotor on, but basically I would take this hub. Oh, this is very difficult to do one-handed. Push that through the back of the wheel like that, and it's not going to sit flush because of that little lip I have. But I sandwiched the rotor in for the other one, and then I run the lug stud into the back, put the lug on the front, and then just tighten it down with my Ugga Dugga gun, or you could use a ratchet if you don't have one, it would work. And then your lugs should be straighter than if you just tried to run them straight through, because that's what I did last time. I just pushed took a lug stud, pushed it through, put a lug nut on the end, and just tightened it until it drew itself in, which was fine. Probably would still be fine now that I've got these centering rings. But if you want to avoid any sort of like shake or shimmy, and don't want to bother with the centering rings, just go ahead and hook it up to a wheel, and you should be all set. Okay, guys, so I'm just going to kind of squelch some of the myths that are out there on the forum. So between the stock rotors and the GrandAm upgrades and why people give, this one such crap. The height difference, or the track width difference, is going to be about 1/4 of an inch. So there's 2 plus 1, and then here's 1 plus 2 1/4, or just a hair over that, almost 2 1/2. So you're looking at less than an inch added to your track width. People who are super sensitive to unsprung weight, this guy weighs 13.2 pounds, bone stock, and the completed GrandAm setup is weighing in at 17 on the nose. Now, this is just a bathroom scale. It's not perfectly accurate, but you get the rough idea. Guys, it's you're adding about 4 pounds per corner. Really not, in my opinion, that big a deal, especially on a Fiero. These brakes perform so much better that I wouldn't even... Personally, I hate the stock brakes. So I'm just going to stick with these. If you are a autocrosser for life, maybe these make more sense for you. But if you're just doing daily driving, these are heaps and heaps better. Also, I'm only running these ones on the front of the car right now. The rear brakes are bone stock. Master cylinder and booster are bone stock. That seems to work just fine. So don't be timid about... Don't feel like you have to do this crazy upgrade creep in order to get the GrandAm upgrade on the front. You really can just do the hubs and rotors and put some longer studs in them. What else am I forgetting? I think that's it. Anyway, yeah, don't listen to silly people on the forums. These work just fine.